Roland, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Jake, thanks for having me on the show.
No, it's my pleasure. So, offline just now, you said, Jake, I've got a good story to start this with. I was like, okay, quick, let's click record. So, Roland, I'm going to pass it straight to you. Um, Context for this conversation for anyone listening being, we met in person at the Bitcoin conference in Bali a couple of years ago. What an amazing experience that was in terms of how many different people I touched from different parts of the world over that weekend in just an extraordinary way. So it's great to have a call with you and record a conversation and just see what progress you've made in that time, and fire away with your story, Roland. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. Just before that, I think it's also back then it's maybe almost more than 2 years ago now, and Alby has completely changed since then. So I think we can cover a lot how things were back then and how things have changed. But especially since the start of this year, I've just been having the best time of my life, and I'd like to
Awesome.
share. Yeah, how that kind of came about. And I think the biggest thing everyone's talking about, right, is OpenClaw, and I can share my experience. Just for people who don't know, OpenClaw is like a personal assistant, probably the biggest innovation since ChatGPT. So, I mean, if you haven't tried it yet, I definitely recommend it. It's the fastest growing project on GitHub. With I think it's almost going to catch up. It's surpassed React in the number of GitHub stars in just like a couple months, and React is like powering half the internet with all the websites. It's almost going to catch up to Linux, which is the number one starred repository on GitHub in the world. I think OpenClaw is number 2 at the moment. So
Cool.
yeah, super crazy. So if we jump back to I guess a couple months ago, one of my good friends and the guy I worked with, Juan, he's not a programmer, but he's in the tech space. He does some affiliate marketing, and he sent us a message, and he's like, you've got to try OpenClaw. I've set it up. It's automating everything for me. It's completely changed my life.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to try it out. This was like the end of my day. I'd been working all day. I was super tired. So I did the absolute basics, which is like, I was kind of lucky. I had already a virtual machine, a VPS running that basically didn't have anything on it. So I just installed OpenCore on there, connected it to my Telegram, and then I was like, okay, that's enough for today. I'm gonna I'll come back to it tomorrow or whatever. So yeah, I've been working all day. It was pretty late at night, and I'm like, okay, I'm turning off my computer, and then I had it on my phone, right? And I was walking with my dog at night of the street, and then it kind of started to click, right? That now I have this personal assistant that I can talk to 24/7, and it can do stuff for me. It has, it has its own computer. It can do anything on that computer. And I was pretty pumped about that. And I'm a programmer, right? So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted it to start building some test application just to try it out, see how things would go. And the first thing I wanted to give it was a GitHub account, right, and an email address, so that well, it's like a personal assistant, right? Like I want my personal assistant to be able to receive emails on my behalf. Like, if I was someone like a millionaire, billionaire, I'd have a real personal assistant.
Yeah,
And they would
message my PA. We'll set up a meeting.
Yeah. So that was kind of the idea. And I was just walking along the street on my phone, chatting with Telegram, and I'm like, okay, can you set yourself up a GitHub account and set yourself an email? Yeah. So the first thing, like, okay, it can't set up a GitHub account because it needs an email address. And then I'm like, okay, so get yourself an email address. And it comes back to me and it says, I cannot set up my own email address. You have to do it for me, because there's like there's captures, there's KYC. Like, if you try and create a Gmail address, that's probably the most common. You'd need to give a phone number, right? And so my agent doesn't have a phone number. Even if it did, it would probably get hit by like a capture. Like, there's a lot of anti-bot protections, right? And I was just walking along the street at night, and I'm like, you're giving me more work to do, right? This personal assistant
Doesn't work.
it's yeah, it's exactly the opposite of what it should be doing. It should be reducing my workload. So I had to kind of think about that for a couple of days, and I bumped some ideas back and forth with this new OpenClaw bot, my personal assistant. And so we decided to kind of take a different tact and think about, what if you could have an OpenClaw that could set itself up fully, that didn't have to rely on a human, that could use permissionless services. So this is kind of, we started, and we looked at what's available today, and actually there's really two really good projects. So one is LNVPS. Basically, you get VPS hosting. You can spin up a machine, and you can pay with Bitcoin. And even the agent, they have like an API, so you don't even, like, as the human, I don't have to like go and set up my own VPS. I can just tell it, okay, you can use LMVPS to create your own virtual machine, or create a virtual machine and then pay for Bitcoin to pay for the machine every month, right? So this is kind of like the first agentic payment that we already see that the agent can actually pay for its own hosting, right, to keep it itself alive. And the second part is this thing called PPQ, pay per queue, which is like AI model hosting, but you can pay with Bitcoin for like the usage. So rather than like what is like OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Claude are the popular ones, right? But you can also use this service called PPQ, pay for it with Bitcoin, and then you get access to all the different types of models. So you can give your agent one of the models, whatever one suits for you. Right now, I use Kimi K2.5, which is like it's like 10 times cheaper than the leading models, but it's still good enough for a personal assistant. And so we kind of gave this project this name called Autonomous Agent Onboarding, because that's kind of what it is. But we also realized that with these two things, if it has three things, if it has a Bitcoin wallet, it has its own machine or virtual machine, and it has its own AI tokens, which it can pay with Bitcoin, both of those, then it can actually spin up another personal assistant, and it can do that completely autonomously. So it can create another one for you. If you, for example, like at Alby, right now we have a marketing OpenClaw running, which is like helping us do marketing, and then we have a development focused one. So we have like two different agents, and you could think of like having one like specialized for each aspect of what you do, right? So I kind of published this project, and we wrote an article on Twitter about it, just kind of describing what this project did. And actually, this got reposted. It was linked in another article, which was then linked by someone else, who was reposted by Elon Musk, linking all the way back to this project that we created. And it got millions of views. And I think this is such a cool thing. And it's kind of fascinating thought that we as Bitcoiners, like me, was the first one to actually create an agent that could spawn up another agent that can sustain itself just with a Bitcoin wallet. And it kind of made me think, like, there's so much funding put into, like, the crypto side, the stablecoin side, but we were the first ones to do it on Bitcoin. And I think that's because we really care about freedom, permissionless software. And I built this to solve a real problem. It's not like smoke and mirrors. Like, it's not about the marketing, getting funding, making this big post, this big hype. It's like I had a real problem, and I found a way to solve it, and I was just playing around and having fun, and and yeah, so it turns out we were the first one, and I think that was such an awesome experience for me, and at the same time, I was kind of inspired by this guy, Peter Steinberger. I think his name is, the guy who created OpenClaw, and there's a really good like 3 hour podcast with him, with Lex Friedman. And one thing that really stood out to me was like he was just having fun, like making this project, right? It wasn't like work for him, and I think this is such an important point. It's like if you want to excel, if you want to beat everyone else, if you're going to be working many hours per day, way more than everyone else, right? 7 days a week even, but it's going to be fun. It's not like if you're pushing yourself. I mean, now of course at Alby there's a lot of tasks that I have to do. I have to review code. I have to do releases. I have to update software. But I, the the thing is, especially recently, every day I just I'm jumping out of bed basically, and this is like the first. This is the first time since I was a kid I can really say that, right? Like I've been sleeping like less than 6 hours a day. Like I'm just so excited, having so much fun. I think this is such a good um, trajectory for Alby and for Bitcoin. I think we're doing a whole bunch of cool things, which I can talk about later. But maybe we can stop there and
Ah,
chat a bit.
well, mate, what a story! I love it, and these conversations are very interesting, Roland. I can almost always feel how someone feels, if that makes sense, and I think it comes through as a listener as well, as you can that sense of optimism and excitement and freshness. People feel that, and what's so cool is how you have clearly shown, like, solve a real problem for you and then tell people about it, and the real world reacts with like this huge reverb, and it's not AI generated YouTube channel. You know what I mean? It's actually real stuff and catches the attention of real people and influential. So congratulations, that's really cool. And it's that process of iteration, isn't it? One, I mean, as a developer, I couldn't say from my perspective, but you guys are trying new stuff every single day, and you have been now for multiple years. And this is just one of the things that actually really worked, and that's what's so cool about it. Maybe I can give some context, Roland, about for people wondering, like, what is AI, and the very high level idea of a personal assistant that's a computer. What does that even mean, and why is that possible now?
I think the best way to think of AI is it's just a tool. It can be used for good or bad, but I think the best thing to think about it is it makes you more productive. It it takes anything that is just a menial task and it can do it. So it leaves humans with more time to be creative and do things that only humans can do. Um, I think there's a really good example of this for me. I'm a programmer. I've been a programmer for 20 years. I'm not sure I can call myself a programmer anymore. Um, but programming, I would never consider myself a good programmer. Programming is like, for me, it's an end into a means, right? Like I'm trying to build something, that's my goal, and programming is like the necessary part to make like a product, right? If you're making software product, you have to write code, and up until recently, that's all been handwritten. Um, and it's not like you're going from A to B. It's definitely not a straight line. If if you do a lot of programming, it's it's very, to get from A to B is very like you're taking a very long route. Like the language of programming to build this product, um, it's so complicated. There's so many things, so much logic that you have to think. It takes years to build these products, and I mean, Alby Hub, which we've been working on for 2 years, is an example of that. And I would say now, after 2 years, it's in a really good spot, right? But that's 2 years of a team working really hard on this project. And now with AI, I think it's completely changed for me, not just for programming, but for all aspects. So for me, instead of spending all this time on programming, I have now just have a more efficient tool. I can say I can have this idea of something I want to build, and then the AI can do the programming for me, and I can spend my time thinking about the idea, doing quick iteration, um, and spend more time on the whole product development experience. Like marketing, planning, project management, all those things, rather than only programming because I only have a certain amount of time and so much work to do, right? And that's kind of the huge unlock for me. That now I can do so much more. I can be so much more creative. I can iterate so much faster, see what works, what doesn't, and just be so much more productive. And I think we can apply this to like any category, not just programming. Um, I'm pretty excited for like the humanoid robots. I think there's a definitely a scary factor there. Um, but for me, I have this house that is like way out of the city. Um, I don't live there at the moment, and one of the reasons is just I don't have enough time to maintain it and have that lifestyle. But if I have this robot that 24/7, it's doing the gardening, it's walking around, it's building stuff for me. Um, I think these sort of I think some people are so scared that it's like this AI is going to take your job, but I don't think that's the case. I think you should be so excited because all this boring stuff is going away. You have all this time now to work with AI to actually do really creative stuff, and at least from what I've seen, I think there's going to be a lot more jobs. There's going to be a lot more work if the main thing is that just people have to be willing to adapt. They're probably going to lose their old job. A lot of people will, but I think what's coming is you're going to have something that's way more fulfilling. Like I heard this stat that 80% of people um, work on jobs that they do not like at all. They don't enjoy them. They have to do them for the money, right? Um, so if we can flip this around in that everyone is working on what they actually enjoy, they'll be so much more productive. Society will be so much better. Everyone will be more happy. So I'm pretty optimistic. I think.
Brilliant. And again, that's such a nice concept, especially when grounded in the idea of sound money. A digitally native gold-esque, transfer of value across space and time, i.e. Bitcoin. It wasn't possible before, but now you can talk to machines that talk to each other that then pay each other. I mean, it's just nuts what you just described. And I agree, the doomsday stuff is, in my experience, not true. And a small example of this in my world of investing is you're looking at all the time, you're looking at capital efficiency, or you're looking at opportunity cost, or you're looking at market sizing. And it's quite simple. Like, AI can do a better job of creating a pitch deck now than anyone ever could do before. Or the market research, like it's all right there at the tip of a click of a button, boom, and it's done. But the actual decision is still you. It can give you all this information. It can get it much faster. It can be more accurate. You can likely reduce the risk that you're involved in, but it's still you that has to decide. So I saw a great meme recently that was about the CEO of Goldman Sachs saying that it used to take 6 people 6 weeks to create a IPO prospectus, and now it can be done in a few minutes to 95% of the standard of before. It's like, wow. I mean, that is a complete revolution. However, they'll still get paid for the wisdom and the insight that they carry. So in much the same way of a good programmer is now like 95% of your job can be done by someone else. That 5% where you're now across marketing, you're across route to market, you're across product, you're across back-end development, that is unbelievably valuable and more valuable than before. And that's very, very exciting. So for those out there that don't know what OpenClaw is, perhaps I can tee this question up with, I have been paying for subscriptions recently, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Grok, quite willingly, paying subscription fee and going like, okay, well, let's see what I can do with these things. Maple AI, I had Mark on the show recently talking about the importance of privacy when it comes to these AI tools. And even just today, I was asking ChatGPT, what should I not share if I'm concerned about financial data leaks and things like that? And it's like, well, if you're sharing net asset numbers or revenue, like round it up, don't put any specific names in, et cetera, et cetera. So there definitely are some guardrails to use of these tools. But where is OpenClaw different? And why is that specifically what you've been building with?
So I think there's two things. There's one, the model, right? And that's what the subscriptions you have now. And probably the interaction with them is a bit different. So um, up until OpenClaw, we have had this, at least for like the last 6 months or a year or so, this idea of agents, right? But they're very basic. So it's, you would have like a chat interface, like ChatGPT is probably the easiest way to explain it. Um, you could use Maple AI or choose OpenAI or whatever it is. But basically, the idea is you chat back and forth. Um, you turn off your computer, then the agent is gone, right? You have to turn on
Mm,
your computer again. You go back to the chat interface, and you can start working again. Um, OpenClaw is like a huge innovation. Um, there's a few small things that quite clearly separate it. Um, so the first one is that it's always online, right? It has like a dedicated machine, um, and it can actually work on stuff all the time, even when you are not touching any device, which is one thing that's really cool. The next thing, it has a lot of actually human characteristics. So there's one called the heartbeat. So by default, every 30 minutes, it will spin itself up. It can check for things like if you can set it up to do some research, and then every 30 minutes, if it thinks there's something useful for you, it can send you a message, or it can do some additional research, or it can do anything, right? So every 30 minutes, it's completely different. It's like it's alive now. It's running 24/7. If there's stuff for it to do, then it can do them. Um, and then there's another thing which is called Soul, Soul.md. And I think this is such a super cool thing, unique to OpenClaw. And I would say the heartbeat thing is kind of funny because the same with Bitcoin, right? Satoshi, I think he only invented like two different things. One was like the difficulty adjustment, um, and there's one other, but like almost everything around Bitcoin was actually invented by other people beforehand, right? He just pulled all these things together in like in a new way, invented just a couple new small things, but packaged them in such a unique way that made this magic, like, which is Bitcoin. And we can say the same thing with OpenClaw, right? Some people say, okay, so here's a heartbeat now. Well, that's just like a cron job, and a cron job in like computing terms is just like you set up a task that can run on a schedule, like once a month or once an hour or whatever. So people say, okay, the heartbeat is it's just a very mechanical thing. What's so special about it? But then you also have this soul.md, and this is basically where you can decide what your agent uh, values, like what it thinks is important, what it wants to work on, what its goals are. Um, and combining these features, actually, you have a personal assistant that that has its own personality, that is always online, and that you can chat with. It can help you. It can automate things, and this is the real magic. Like, it's taking these these small things which on their own is just okay. It's just a simple technical thing. There's nothing special about it. But when you bring them all together, it really makes something magical.
Wow. And I immediately start thinking about all the different use cases that I could apply it to in my own life, and where could I be more efficient. And it's I just have to start playing around with it essentially. So how do you use OpenClaw? Like you already described at the very start, having to create an email address and having to attach it to your Telegram. What does that look like today for you? X many months down the line of interacting with it.
So I still interact with it just by Telegram mostly. Um, I did one thing. I set up a Telegram group, which is kind of cool. You can create threads. So it's just me and my bot in this group, but then I can create threads and we can work on different things. Um, so I quite like this idea that I give it projects, and it's kind of it's the owner of the project, even though it kind of like it's still my idea. Like you said, it's still the 5% human part.
Yeah, you press the
What
button.
I yeah, what I choose it should work on. Yeah, that's still me, of course. I don't want to just create it. I mean, I don't want to create a bot that just it's what it wants to work on is completely unrelated to me, because then it would provide no value, right? Um, but so I have it working on these projects, and the really cool thing is it's on its isolated machine. It's completely unrelated to me, and I would say this is very important. Um, some people would think, and I think this is very bad, is to um, give it access to your own accounts, your own email addresses. I mean, that is definitely the best way to make you as efficient as possible and basically automate your life. But it's still very early days. It's still there's a lot of things that can go wrong. You're giving it up a lot of trust and responsibility to your agent, right? So what I do instead is I have it's on a separate machine. It's a separate basically identity. It has its own email address. It has its own GitHub profile, which I did end up, well, the GitHub profile I had to set up, but now it has its own LN email address, which is like it can actually, using Bitcoin, it can create its own email address and send payments, receive mail, which is really cool. I found
Oh,
out about that later. Um, but yeah, so I have it working on these projects, and because it's its own machine, the normal safeguards that I have in place when I'm developing locally, like when I use AI locally, I use Claude Code, which is really good. Probably the the best agent for development, in my opinion. I can go into that more later, but when I'm developing with Claude Code, I will review all the code and review all the commands that it runs and everything, because I have to make sure that the AI is not just like it's hallucinating and then it's running some harmful command, or it's making changes that I don't want it to do, right? But when it's on its isolated machine, and I kind of just treat it as it's potentially already um, it's already compromised, right? It's someone could have hacked it already. I don't know. So I treat it as everything on there. If the worst thing happens, it gets hacked. I don't really care. It's like its own machine. It has its own accounts. It pushes its own code, so it can just change files. It can do anything it wants super fast. Like there's no checks at all. There's no safeguards. It can just build. It can use tools. It has access to the whole computer. Um, so it's still very early days. I'm doing a lot of experimentation, but yeah, having a lot of fun.
it's so interesting. And I become more and more interested in infrastructure. And it's not a question of like, is Bitcoin a thing? It's like, Bitcoin is a thing. What does it need, or what needs it? And those answers equal infrastructure of some form. Like obvious things are payments or whatever. But here we're describing a situation where a whole market that didn't previously exist is opening up, where we can become more efficient using off-the-shelf tools. And I'm assuming that the computer you're speaking of, some element of that is kind of cloud computing power. and that will be paid for with Bitcoin. So someone somewhere is paying someone for that infrastructure. So like, how does this make money? I can see the benefit of paying for the personal assistant. So that's fairly obvious. It's some kind of subscription maybe, or I don't know. But where's the business model in here, if there is one?
So right now, my agent, my personal assistant, does not actually earn money, but it's a huge unlock for productivity, right? So if I can work 10 times faster, if I can build products 10 times faster, I can trial and error. Um, I can figure out what works, what doesn't. I can make 10 times more money, right? Because I'm 10 times more efficient. So
Mm-hmm.
um, there is another idea, and this is what I actually want to experiment with more. Now that we have these building blocks available, I have my bot. It can work on its own project, and I would actually like it to manage its own project. It has its own wallet, right? It has an Alby wallet. It can receive money. So if it makes a project that people actually use and people want changes to the project, then it could actually say, okay, for this change, it's going to cost this amount of money in Bitcoin. If you pay me, then I will work on this feature, right? Because it also has to cover its own costs, its hosting costs, its AI token, its model costs, right? Um, I think this is such a super cool idea. If we have this agent that's autonomously working, I don't think it's going to be 100% autonomous. There's this concept of human in the loop, right? And we've been talking about that a bit. Like me or you as the owner, we should still make the final decision and kind of keep it
Mm-hmm.
on the right path. But I think a lot can be automated, and I think um, even a few weeks back, I met a guy in at a Claude Code um, meetup, and he has his own agent running like on its own Mac Mini, and it has like a screen, and it has two SIM cards, and it has like a LinkedIn profile and everything.
No
And
way.
it's like it's running. It's an employee, an AI employee that he kind of manages, but his employee spends less. Like it costs less than $1,000 a month to run, but it's earning him like $5,000 a month, right? So it's making a huge profit. So I think these things are definitely possible. Um,
Wow.
it's up to you as the human, though, right, to have the good strategy of like what you want your agent to work on and how it's actually going to make this money. Is not just
Mm.
like, okay, everyone can make agents now, and the agent can just somehow magically make money. I don't think it's that easy. And I hope it is never that easy, right? Because it's still the human part that's important. That's what I think.
Well, and it's selling results. So the price tag that the work is associated with depends on the value that's provided. And that's such a simple statement, but it doesn't really matter how much the bot costs to run if the customer gets the value that's associated with the price tag. And that's where the human ingenuity or the insight or the wisdom is required. And so in some ways it's like, okay, if you're an absolute expert in your niche and you've got a 10-hour day and you could spend 10 hours doing one-on-one calls and you earn X doing that, but maybe you could have 10 bots doing 10 calls a day each, but for 10% of the price or something. I don't know, but it's like, it's essentially a way of ratcheting up your time, providing you know where to point it. I guess that's the key, isn't it? But now you can iterate much
Yep.
faster. Whoa, very, very exciting. And so, okay, we spoke a bit about business model just now. Um, so do you pay for OpenClaw? Like, how does that work?
Yep. Well, not directly. So I OpenClaw is free. It's an open source project, but I pay LNVPS for my machine, right? My the
Mm,
hosting services. So this OpenClaw runs on an LNVPS machine. I pay like $5 or like $8 a month in Bitcoin to keep this machine running. Um, and then OpenClaw cannot function without AI tokens. Like it needs a model, um, and there's two ways to do this. You can either run your own local machine, um, like you need quite a powerful machine to run the AI locally, and I hope this is I think this is going to come down a lot in price in the next few years, and it's going to be a lot more private, right? Because you're not sending all this data to a third party. But right now it's quite expensive. So that's one option. The other one is like paying for token usage. And what I use is PPQ, pay-per-Q, which is like you pay Bitcoin for token usage, but you can also use Maple, like you mentioned, for even better privacy. Even on top of that, I think PPQ is also quite good privacy because all these people spending Bitcoin, it's going through like it's like one routing service. All these different queries are coming from all these different people. Um, so I think that's still quite a good trade off, especially for how easy it is to use PPQ. That's why I like PPQ. There's no monthly subscription. There's just like I can pay even just $1 and then I get some tokens and I can start testing it out. So I think the onboarding friction is very low with PPQ, which is what I quite like. And recently, they've just yesterday added support for the ability to connect your Lightning wallet to PPQ. And what this basically means is that you can have auto top ups. So every time your AI token balance gets quite low, then you can automatically pay from your Lightning wallet,
Wow.
top it up with Bitcoin, and then keep going. And this is a great feature, especially for these AI agents, because they're like, if their tokens run out of money, then they're unresponsive, right? And you have to figure out a way to like top them back up to keep them going. So um, I think this is a pretty cool innovation.
Wow. And yes, just so this is one of those, forgive me for not being as up to date on OpenClaw as I probably should be, but I mean, it's going to be the first thing I start researching when this recording's done. And it'll be amazing, I'm sure, how quickly one progresses down the hole. But the fact it's open source is such a big deal, isn't it? And I mean, like Sam Altman, that guy is just so sus, right? Like, what is he up to on the back end? I don't know. But a mate of mine recently who is in the info product space. So he sells education products, has done for years, like 10 years his business has been going. More recently, he's had to pivot away from what he was doing before because now the AI boom means that you can just type into an AI for mentoring or for coaching. And in this case, he's actually pivoting towards marathon training. So a very physical angle for the problem to solve. And therefore, there's still an angle to make some money out of it. But what was kind of, I guess, worrying me about all of this is like you're teaching a third party or a private business how you think. It's not just a web search. It's not like, oh, I can see your internet search history and now I can take all the metadata out of that and advertise products to you. It's like now I can actually see how you think. What are the ramifications of that? And a use case that I came across recently that's something I'd thought about for a while, but in a different lens. And in some ways, actually, Roland, is connected to the rather amazing conversation that you and I had halfway down the volcano that we walked about intergenerational wealth and knowledge transfer. And in my case, my father died when I was a young man and I was 20 years old. So in the first 20 years of my life, I had to learn everything he could teach me before it was too late. I didn't know he was going to die. He didn't know he was going to die. Suddenly he's gone. Well, in a world in which these AI tools are now being created, it's not going to be too much of a stretch to say, well, hang on, all of the intellectual capital of a family should be stored locally for that family to use indefinitely, to do business with, to live with vitality. If you are just telling ChatGPT, aka Sam Altman, how you think and how you behave, then you're basically giving away some of the most important intellectual capital that you have. I'm with you that the computing costs are going to come down. So perhaps OpenClaw is a piece of the puzzle here where you can actually start to think about how knowledge is going to be transferred over time and how we might own that and store that. And that is very, very valuable.
I completely agree. I think it's because what I read, and it's a really scary thought, is if they know how you think, right, and they have the platform to subtly change your behavior, they can change the way you think, right?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, now we
Yeah, it
now we
seems so
like
innocuous, doesn't it, at the start? Sorry to cut you off. It's so innocuous, isn't it? Oh, just type in here. Like, we're a strategy app. You can make better decisions. Oh, who
yeah,
knows where that goes? Sorry, Roland. Carry on.
yeah, it's these tools are super powerful, but on the other hand, like if you give that power to the wrong hands, then it can go down a very dark path, right? So
Mm.
I think OpenClaw is one really great thing, that it's open source and it allows you to pick these different model providers, right? So you don't have to go with OpenAI. You can choose a local model, or you can choose a privacy based model. And yeah, I completely agree. I think as we become more dependent on these AI tools to become as productive as we can, we're going to share more personal details, more private details with them. So I hope at that point we switch to local models, and I think definitely there can be like a slightly worse off local model that has your private data, and then if you really need a powerful cloud model to do something, um, then you can do it knowing that the privacy trade-off is different, right? You share different information with it to do very specific things. I think as long as people have kind of like keep this, this fine line, like this line that you cannot cross between what you should give to your local agent, or your private, or an agent that you can prove is not leaking or using your private data, right?
Mm.
Compared to maybe a cheaper, faster, more powerful um, model provided by OpenAI or Anthropic, or or Grok, or whatever it is. Um,
Yeah, and it's crossed my mind. I realized why I mentioned my friend with the information product was he was explaining to me that it's not long, in his view, until ChatGPT starts doing ads. And so there's going to be a whole new market for the guys that like to sell media products online to figure out ChatGPT. And now, people walk into a town and the first thing they do is just type into ChatGPT, which cafe do I go to? Or, where's the car park? Or what used to be a Google search is now going through an AI tool. So, well, just it's ripe for monetizing eyeballs. And whether or not that marketplace actually arrives, I haven't seen it yet. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. If you're doing hard work, trying to be more efficient, wanting to share private information, then you're not going to want to be bombarded with adverts around those subjects. So I absolutely see this opening up. Gosh, fascinating. So Ronan, so one thing we haven't touched on so far is the business, Alby, that you've been working with now for a few years. So for anyone that doesn't know of Alby, what do you guys do, and what's that journey been like?
So Alby builds products, tools, services to make it easier for individuals and businesses to live on the Bitcoin standard. Basically, we think Bitcoin is the native currency of the internet and the world, and how can we how can we bring more people over to the Bitcoin standard is kind of our overarching goal. Um, and I think back when we were chatting in Bali, right, walking together on this mountain hike, back then things at Albi were uh, very different. So back then we had a custodial wallet, and I think just the month before we celebrated our best month. We had over 1 million transactions. Um, we Sorry, my cat just jumped in. um,
Hello.
let's see. Well,
They like
um,
joining video calls.
yeah. So uh, we're kind of we we had to make a decision at that point. We're getting quite big, quite a lot of usage, and we had two paths. We could either introduce KYC, become a regulated company, get the proper licenses across the world, um, which is very expensive, and also all of our users would have to give personal information, right? That they're not money laundering or whatever it is.
Mm.
Or we could go the opposite route, which is to go self-custodial, self-sovereign. And this has kind of been the idea from the beginning, actually. The first product of Alby is like this browser extension that you can install, and then you can make payments on the web. And back then it connected to a Lightning node. Um, the first part was self-custodial, actually. And we introduced this custodial service because it's it's easier for the average person. That's um, getting Lightning to the mainstream a few years back. Running individual nodes was not really ready, um, but things have changed a lot. We're in a much better position today. It's very easy to actually run a Lightning node now. So the last 2 years, that's been our focus to create this great foundational wallet where you own the keys to your money. You're a part of a decentralized network. You can open channels to anyone you like. You cannot be shut down. You cannot be stopped, which is completely different from like stable coins, for example. Um, we can chat about that. But what is the difference between Alby and other Lightning wallets? Um, we kind of focus on the idea that you have a Lightning wallet connected to all your different applications. So we work on this open protocol called Nostr Wallet Connect. It's kind of a bit technical, but what it does is it gives all your applications the ability to have like permissioned access to your Lightning wallet. Um, Maybe the easy way to explain this is like LMVPS, which I talked about, right? Every month, it needs about $10 to pay for my machine. So I have my one Alby hub, and I have one connection that I give to LNVPS, and every month it will do an auto renewal, and it will take about $8 out of my Lightning wallet, but I give it a specific budget of only $10, and that's all that LNVPS can do. Um, so the idea is, instead of like adding Lightning wallets and balances to all these different apps you use, kind of like if you think about the old days, you have like a mobile phone plan, right? And you top up credits, and then you have like a balance on your phone plan. Instead, we think that people will have a single like control center, and that's what we call Alby Hub. It's your wallet that connects to all these different apps. Your
Hmm.
wallet has all the balance, but then you can create these like permission connections. So I give one to LNVPS, and I give another one to PPQ, for my model tokens, and other things like that. Um, so now we have this self custodial wallet that can connect to all these other apps, and we have like a pretty great foundation. We also did quite a few innovations compared to other self custodial wallets that came before us. So we really tried to bring this self custody more simple, more easy to normal everyday people who are not so technical. So things like being able to open channels, for example, now just with one click, um, you can basically purchase a channel, an incoming channel from some of our LSP partners. So all the difficulties of figuring out like, okay, I need a channel, I have to deposit on-chain Bitcoin. That's no longer the case. I have to figure out who to open a channel to. That's no longer the case. All of those things we kind of take care of. So Alby Hub now is like it's a very strong foundation. It's powering a lot of our the things we do in our business. All other side projects are powered by Alby Hub. Even our cloud subscription platform is actually, all the subscription payments are going through the same protocol, Nostr Wallet Connect, making these subscription payments to a single hub that we run. Um, and now we're actually doing a lot of experimentation, especially in AI, and also on the developer side, to improve developer experience. At the same time, looking at new use cases to really expand what Alby Hub can be used for, and with the goal, right, to to bring Bitcoin to the forefront, make Bitcoin the top way of using money, right? Not stable coins, not cryptocurrency, um, but Bitcoin. And for that, we have to provide the best user experience and solve real problems. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Brilliant. I love it. And I have to say, I was going to do this on the call anyway. I confess, Roland, I've had difficulties with my Alby Hub, and it's been hard to maintain an open channel. And I think I haven't funded it correctly or something along those lines. And it's almost definitely user error rather than anything else. But I would definitely have to admit that I haven't found that move from the custodial to the self-custodial very easy, having been a customer of Alby's from before. I really liked using it specifically for Nostr, so for signing notes. And I'm like, great, this is perfect. So I just have one account with Alby, and now I can use all of these different Nostr apps to interact with, and I don't have to share my NSEC with a bunch of random software tools that I have no idea if they're going to disappear tomorrow. I can just do it using Alby. That was great. But I've found that the transfer to the self-custodial wallet difficult because for some reason I keep getting the balance wrong, and I haven't been able to sign up with the payment plan properly. I had to put a card in and take my Bitcoin out. I don't know exactly what I was doing wrong, but there's no doubt in my mind that the self-custodial angle that you guys chose to go down, I'm still just experimenting with these things, right? Like any user would. I'm looking at different things and what works, and great route to go, because the more permissionless we can make things, the better. Had you gone the other way, you immediately become a kind of honeypot for regulators or someone that's not nefarious actors, but it's like, let's put some pressure on this ecosystem because we want to keep our central banking cartel going. Go and talk to those guys. You know what I mean? Where it's like, no, this market can't be stopped. And if you try, it's not going to make any difference. And so I love tools like that because at the end of the day, it's just money. And why shouldn't I be able to spend my money with who I want, when I want, how I want? So yeah, sorry to share that I had a bit of a tricky experience with that, but that's certainly been the case for me.
Yeah, no, and it's great to be honest here. I think it hasn't been the smoothest path. I think we were a bit rushed 2 years ago when we made this transition, and we were kind of forced to based on the explosion and how much usage we had. Our node was growing. We had a lot of Bitcoin there that we kind of had to make the decision and get people to self custody as soon as possible. And so when we released Alby Hub, it was about 6 months of development, I guess, at that point. Definitely there were bugs, there were issues, and also just on the Alby account side, as you say, like billing issues and sometimes channels getting closed. All of those things were kind of definitely a bit bumpy. We've gotten a lot better since then. We're still not perfect. I think people still have to be a little bit more accepting, right, compared to a custodial solution. But I'm pretty optimistic. I think what we have now today is super reliable, and the amount of power it gives to the individual is hard to beat. So for sure, me personally, I actually like custodial solutions. If I was going to recommend to someone who's just getting started with Bitcoin, I'd just say use Wallet or Satoshi. Use whatever the simplest one. I don't care, right? Like if you only have $10 or $100, then why are you going to go into self custody and have more confusion or a poor experience? The goal, right, to onboard somebody is to get them to use Bitcoin for the first time, to have that magic experience, and take some time to learn. And when they're ready, when they have more money allocated into Bitcoin, when they're actually spending and receiving more money, then move to a self custody approach. So I think Alby Hub today is still not geared towards beginners. It's still very much an intermediate level product. But I think going back to OpenClaw, I think one interesting thing um, which we're working on now, which could help solve some of these issues, is that um, we're basically building a way where your agent can manage your wallet. So you don't even have to touch the user interface anymore. It can set up your hub, your Alby hub for you, your wallet for you. It can
Cool.
manage your channels. It can do everything.
Wow.
It can recommend you if you're having troubles. It can figure it out, right? It has full knowledge of how Alby Hub works. It can teach you things. It can show you, okay, have you done a backup yet? You need to write down your 12-word recovery phrase just for a last resort, right? Like if so these kind of things I think could be a huge um, huge like UX improvement for the average user.
Mm.
And at the same time, I think because more people are choosing to run like a dedicated machine for OpenClaw, they already have the ability to self-host Alby Hub because it's just another app. They already have this machine available. They see the benefit of running a personal assistant there. They can just add the wallet, and I think this really lowers like the onboarding barrier for people to run a self-custodial Lightning node. So I'm pretty excited there as well.
Awesome. And it's fascinating stuff. This. So, Roland, I normally shoot for 60 minutes. So, do you have another 5-10 minutes?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll wrap it up basically after this last question. But I'm intrigued by the growth that you're seeing. So, the Lightning Network is obviously evolving very, very fast. What are you guys seeing? Like, you're at the very coalface of this industry, building a business like Alby. It's super exciting what you're seeing, I assume. What does it feel like on a day-to-day basis? Like transactions up, user growth up, people all over the world connecting in. Like, how does it actually look?
Yeah. So we're actually quite a, a, a bit different situation. What can I say? We run an open source project, right? So people can run Alby Hub. They don't even have to connect their Alby account, and we have no idea what they're doing. We have no
Mm,
idea how many payments they're using, how much Bitcoin they store. They can run completely private. So there's a trade off, right? You can run a net mode, or you can connect your Alby account, and you get email notifications. You get a Lightning address. You get encrypted automatic backups, and those sort of things. So that part we can see. Um, but I would recommend to follow. There's a River report that came out recently, um, which a huge increase in Lightning adoption. Um, I think now 0.1% of what Visa is processing, but if we do another 10x from here, where I
mhm.
think it's already like since a few years ago we've already done one 10x. So if we do another 10x from here, then we're actually starting to compete with these other solutions. Um, so Lightning adoption is very fast going up. I can't remember the exact number, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. Um,
I can go look it up. No worries.
yeah, definitely there's a huge increase in at the same time. I think we're in a quite critical situation where there's two competing protocols. So there's like Bitcoin for agentic payments, and then there's also like there's one called X402. So the what Bitcoin one is called L402, and it's Bitcoin only, and then there's X402, which supports all different currencies. Alby is actually supporting both of those, um, and we're looking into experimenting with them both. Um, we build open protocols, and we're building on open protocols, so it doesn't really matter either way. But we would like to see more people shift to use Bitcoin, right? Because even if stablecoins are fast, they can they can still be censored. You can still get your accounts frozen, and at the end of the day, my personal opinion is everything is going to zero against Bitcoin, right? So even if it's called a stable coin today, I think it's more like a temporary solution. It's not going
Mm,
to be very stable in the long term. Um, so long answer short, definitely Lightning adoption is going up, and it's going up hundreds of percent every year. So that's really exciting. We can also see like with the Bitcoin fee rate, right? It's gone way down, like 1 sat per VByte, because so much of the activity that was on chain before has now been shifted into the Lightning network.
Interesting.
And yeah, I think every day more, like, what is it? Square Cash App supporting Lightning transactions in the US. Um, More exchanges supporting Lightning Network directly. So I think Lightning is definitely on a good path, and I believe it's going to be the payment rails of the future. Um, Definitely, it's still a very small market compared to, credit card payments, but it's definitely growing, and at a fast pace.
Yeah, and small but different. It's when you really start thinking about what it is a bearer asset, and what does it mean to have counterparty risk, and what does it mean to have speed of transaction versus security. And you start looking into this, it's like, well, it's a much better form of money. So it's inevitable, in my opinion, that that's where things will go. But the status quo is not going to just wander off and say, okay, don't worry, guys, you take all our business, no problem. So I'm definitely expecting a bit of a to and fro for a long time yet to come. Well, Roland, thank you so much for sharing everything today. Is there, just to hand it to you, is there anything else that you haven't walked through that you wanted to share, or anything that you wanted to increase upon?
Yeah, I mean, kind of in line with the stuff, the innovations we're doing with AI, um, which which I can sum up quickly. So,
Yeah, go for it. I mean,
um,
take as long as you like.
yeah, we have this thing called AI skills, which basically gives your AI agent, whatever you use, OpenAI, Claude, um, specific knowledge of how Alby works. And what this means is you can basically, with a simple prompt, build an application that has Bitcoin payments. And it will actually do it right now, which I think this year is like, there's been a huge change in the quality of the AI models coming out, that it's actually possible, combined with these skills that Alby maintains to actually build these apps. Um, and the second one is we have the skill which basically gives AI agents the ability to use a Bitcoin wallet to make and receive payments. So both of those are available, and basically just copy one line and give it to your agent, and it can basically, then it kind of installs the knowledge. It's like, in the Matrix when Neo learns kung fu, right? It's kind of like that. You give it that knowledge.
Great
So
movie.
I think I think these are really two cool innovations we've done recently. And also regarding the developer side, um, we've actually introduced a new thing, which is a way for AIs, when they're building these apps, to actually fully test payments, like the whole flow, without human interaction. So they can basically spin up these like throwaway dummy wallets that can actually, they're powered by Alby Hub, and they all the features of different types of payments, receiving money, sending money, listing transactions, all those things are possible. Um, so for anyone building, or who wants to try out building something related to Bitcoin, I think today is definitely 100 times easier than it's ever been. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to really. All you need to do is take 5 or 10 minutes. You just put in this prompt. You can even use Replit or something. You don't have to set up any development environment. If you have an idea to build something Bitcoin related, definitely try it out. And yeah, if you want to learn more about Alby, getalby.com. Feel free to contact us as well if you have any questions. We have a um, support link directly on the site. Happy to hear what people want to build, where they get stuck. We're always trying to make things easier for the average person. So
Awesome. Ronan, it strikes me just before we close up. So when I think about, famous Andreessen quote of like software's eating the world, and then the AI boom of recent times where it's like, well, actually software is eating software. And so the trend for value creation for so long was like, don't look at hardware, do software. You know, massive scale, huge multiples to be made. And the more that I guess, got closer to that, got burnt, and then moved further away from it due to, in many ways, Bitcoin, I realized a lot of that kind of Silicon Valley VC funded hype cycle is a symptom of the money printer. Like, how is it that millions of dollars can be thrown at an idea with no traction? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's because money's cheap. If anything, money's valueless. And so it strikes me that this AI wave that we're witnessing now is obviously completely reinventing how you create software products, as you've touched on in multiple different ways over this conversation. But as a software builder, entrepreneur, investor in my case, like, actually it's just making you better at your job. So where is there a defensibility angle that is obvious to you, or when you're talking about these AI tools that you're bringing into your Alby ecosystem, like, they just add value for the customer, they add value for you guys as a team, correct? It's not necessarily eating your business.
No, and people can say, yeah, okay, we have AI now, we can build a product in a day or a week. Like, where's your like competitive mode, right? But I think there is a network effect. There's trust involved. There's you get faithful users of a service or a company who's actually building something you believe in. And I think as long as we keep innovating, we can bring in these users, and we can see it today with OpenClaw, right? OpenClaw was invented, and then like a few days later, there's Zero Claw, Null Claw, Nano Claw, all these different clones. But yeah, the people using them is like so much smaller than OpenClaw, right? The network effect is the real thing. The the respect of the developer behind the project and their vision, and that they were the one who came up with this idea, and they are going to push it forward. They are going to bring these new ideas to the world. So I think a lot of people follow these companies. They don't just switch because, okay, someone else created a new product in one day, and they sell it for half the price. I don't think it will be like that.
Yeah, it's funny, and I think there's also a sense of, like, where is content valuable? Well, content is a way of garnering trust. Like, if you're creating content over a sustained period of time that people come across for whatever reason, they're not going to suddenly reach out to you with a question or with an opportunity because you're an AI channel on YouTube. So to echo you, there's definitely a sense there, isn't there, of people can feel the proof of work, they value that,
Yep.
they grow to trust it, and therefore, yes, you could go and use an equivalent to the Alby wallet that interacts with Alby Hub, but actually, why would you? Because it works totally fine and you trust those guys. Yeah, cool. Okay, awesome. Well, Roland, I don't have any more questions for this particular conversation. Really appreciate you coming and joining me on the podcast, and great to spend some time talking together. So thank you so much for your time today.
You too. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Roland.